Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 o'clock and I was politely told to stop gabbing and get this meeting underway. So, welcome to Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, Board of Commissioners meeting for the Port of Bellingham. There are several ways to participate. Thank you for being here in person. You can also participate in by being live on our Zoom link and watching on YouTube. I am going to open the public meeting and start with roll call. Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Commissioner Briscoe.
Here.
And Commissioner Shepard is also here. All three commissioners are present. Our advisory committee schedule is our first order of business to read. We have, looks like just one advisory committee meeting coming up. That's the Bellingham International Airport Advisory Committee, or the BIAC. Their next meeting is July 13th at 4 p.m., and that is a Zoom meeting and in person. So there are two ways to participate in that meeting. The MAC, or the Marine Advisory Committee, is on summer break and will resume meetings on September 12th. Okay, our next order of business is public comment. If you wish to provide public comment, you can come up to the mic and do so. Do we have anyone signed in, Carrie? Okay, we don't have anyone signed up, but anyone in the room is still, the option is yours to come on up. We do ask public comment to be kept to about 3 minutes. At this time, I'll also invite any of our friends on Zoom who would like to provide public comment. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand. Okay. Hearing none, we will pause for public comment again at the end of our regularly scheduled business. All right, Carrie, we'll move on to our consent agenda, please.
All right. Motion to approve consent agenda items A through E.
Okay, any questions or comments, Commissioner Briscoe? Commissioner Bell?
I have none.
I don't have any either, so Carrie?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through E.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Carries 3-0. We have no action items today, so we just have presentations. Our first presentation is on an update on the delicious Dockside Market, and Carrie Chan.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for having me, commissioners. I'm Carrie Chan. I am the coordinator of the Bellingham Dockside Market, and I'm happy to be here today. Feel free at any time if you have a question or if I'm not clear about something to let me know. So I have a lot of photos in this. I feel like the photos really speak a lot better than I can about our market and what we're doing. I'm going to go to the next one here. Some basic market information. So we started in October of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. Our mission is to create access for the community to buy seafood directly from local fishermen. The market takes place on the first and third Saturdays of the month. And our market values were created in collaboration with our vendors at the very beginning, and we use these to sort of guide our decision making as we go. And they are gratitude to Indigenous peoples, connection with fishing families, seafood and fishing education, and sustainability and small business practice. And there's more detail within each of those, but I just sort of put the main idea on there. So some statistics about our market, and this is mainly from 2022. The average number of customers we have per market is just under 600, about 584, what I would say a minimum being like 200 up to 1,200 in the busier summer months. An average sale for a vendor on any given market day would be just under $3,000. That doesn't mean that every vendor is going home with $3,000 in their pocket at each market. It's averaging out from some really big days in the summer to some lower days, and each vendor has different sale amounts, but that's about the average. We have a pretty good Facebook and Instagram following, and we have 3,800 newsletter subscribers. So I send out a newsletter the day before markets to let people know what vendors will be there and what products will be for sale. And we right now have 14 current vendors.
Can you tell me how many days the 584 is? So per market, how many days?
So the average number of customers per market,
How many days is the market?
so there's 24 in a year. So that is
That's
average.
a 1 day.
That's 1 day. Yeah, that's at one time in
And
one
the
market.
and the $2,900 is 1 day of sales as well.
Per vendor.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, not total.
But it's all 1 day.
It's all in 1 day. Yeah, it's a lot of people coming through. So these are our vendors for this year, for 2023. We do have ongoing enrollment, so we expect to have more people applying. But as you can see, we have our list of returning vendors, so they must have found that it was profitable enough or worth their while to come back again. Now we're in our third year. And then we have 4 new vendors that have started with us this year. And where you see the little star, it means that they are a permanent moorage customer, either most of them here in Squalicum Harbor or in Blaine Harbor. So it's about 65% have moorage here.
Carrie, how do you feel about the total number? Are you at an optimal size? Do you have room to grow? Too few? What do you think?
I think there's always room for growth. We are at a place where there's not a ton of competition between vendors. There's overlap of product for sure, and we don't have any rule about, we can only have a certain number of halibut sellers, for example. But I think it's kind of a sweet spot for vendors right now where they can come and sell their product and not have too much competition. But I do feel that we are growing, and unfortunately we don't always have 14 at each market. So there's always this feeling of it being a little bit smaller than I would like it to feel. But I feel like our average at each market is getting a bit bigger, and even 5 vendors is better than no vendors, and that's sort of I think that customers feel that way too, that they're happy just to have access to local seafood, and 3, 4, 5 vendors is better than having no options as they had before. So I'm hoping we'll grow, but I think we're going at a pace that isn't too quick, that we don't have too many vendors, and we still feel very much like a family. Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Well, number one, how's the pavilion building working for the,
Oh, I'm going to talk all about that. Don't worry. Yes.
and it looks like we have the West Coast covered and Alaska and
Yep.
Salish Sea.
Yep.
Do we see a lot of competition in price in this program?
Thankfully, not too much. Again, I don't put rules around what the pricing needs to be. I think it's just kind of a general consensus among vendors, and thankfully there's a pretty good camaraderie that they're not going to try to gouge
That's what I was
each other.
looking at.
So we do have, when the fresh boats come in and they have the whole fresh fish, it's sort of a different model because they're there for a couple months and they're just kind of trying to get rid of volume. And so they do have a lower price point than, say, the frozen guys who have paid to have their product carefully frozen and taken care of. Their price point is higher, but a lot of customers want that product. They don't know how to deal with a fresh product, and they just want to be able to take that little frozen portion and put it in their freezer, and they'll pay more for it. So it can be tricky. Thankfully, we haven't had a lot of problem with that, knock on wood, so far. Yeah, good questions. The pavilion, so to answer that question, yes, we have absolutely enjoyed being in the Fisherman's Pavilion and wanted to thank you for opening the doors to us. Obviously, it has taken us literally out of the weather, and that has been great for my peace of mind, just to know that we're not going to be in the wind in mid-December. But I think more importantly, it's opened up the doors for a lot of collaborations, other people to join us in the pavilion, and opening the doors to the public to be able to see the space. So you can see on here we have a couple of photos of, I'm pointing here, you can't see what I'm pointing at, but in the corners, the KISS program, which is Keep It Simple Seafood. That's a Bellingham Sea Feast program that they have been doing once a month during Dockside, and they bring in a chef, a guest chef, local chef, to demonstrate how to cook seafood. So they've been using seafood from our vendors, and it's just a little demonstration. The customers have really enjoyed getting a new recipe idea and seeing it all laid out before them. That's been a really popular program. We have shared the space with fishermen, as you can see in that center bottom photo, who have not frequently, but we have shared space with fishermen who've been mending their nets at the same time, and customers get to see that sort of behind the scenes, what it takes, not just on a fishing boat, but what you do outside of the fishing boat to prepare for a season. I think that that's really important for them to see too. We've had some educational booths come in. We shared the space with the Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition, who did a crew recruitment event. So we've been able to make it more than just the market by having a roof over our heads. So we really have appreciated that. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is a list of some of our partnerships and collaborations, people that we've worked with this year. I'm not going to read every name, but I'll just say that we have a lot of people helping out, a lot of people interested in being part of the market, either having a booth at the market or asking us to present at their event, and having the help of like the farmers market. They have 30 years under their belt, and they've been able to sort of help with some of the stumbling blocks of working with vendors or questions that I've had. It's been really helpful. So we've had a lot of people coming alongside and helping us along the way, which has been fantastic. So people want to know more about our market. And I put this in here because I think it's important to realize that the model that we have, this Dockside market, it's a really popular model, and people want to do this same model in other places. I've had phone calls from other ports who've been interested in seeing if it would be feasible for their port to do a market like what we do. So I did not reach out to these people. People reached out to me asking me to present at these different conferences. So there was a health conference with the Whatcom County Health Department. I helped to present about how we have a working relationship with them and how the market started working with the health department, getting it going. I presented at the local catch network in Alaska, just talking about our program. And I remember one of the guys who was watching, he was a fisherman from the East Coast, and he was just in awe that we had a port that not only allowed us to have a market, but actually supported the market. He just couldn't believe that we had such a good working relationship. So I think we're really lucky to have what we have here. And then recently I was asked to be on a panel for a Harbor Masters conference. That one I just did from Zoom, thankfully. But that they were doing a presentation about dockside markets and how they can benefit different ports. So again, more people reaching out to us, not us reaching out to them. These are some of the media. This is just during 2022. This isn't back to 2020 when we started. These are all links if you're interested in looking at these articles or listening to the interview, all the media about our market this last year. All right, coming up at Dockside, so everything is starting next month. It's very exciting. We are starting the SNAP program. So that is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Essentially, we will be able to accept what was called food stamps at our market. So that's something that we applied for to be a SNAP retailer. So as a market, we will be able to accept the EBT cards. We'll swipe the cards. We will give these lovely tokens that we have ordered as cash, essentially. And then customers will be able to use these at participating vendor booths to purchase seafood. So again, just more access to more people. And the fillet station will open again as well. This is our third year having a fillet station. So we're moving back to Gate 5. We'll be outside again. So you can see the picture of our fillayer Onario. He is a volunteer from Homeport, which is here at Bellingham Cold Storage. He's a master filleter. He's super slick and speedy with his cutting. People love to watch him, and they love to tip him, which is wonderful. And that's pretty much it. So I've linked our social media, our Facebook, Instagram, and our website. Please feel free to follow us if you want to hear what's coming up next.
And is that working okay to move back and forth locations between the pavilion? So now you're permanently at the pavilion?
No,
Not-
no.
Okay.
So so far, yeah, we moved into the pavilion in December, and we're very mobile, right? Like we're there, but then we're gone. We don't leave anything behind. So it's pretty easy to just kind of bring our stuff wherever we need to go. Being back at Gate 5 is great because we'll be closer to the boats, and it's really more fresh fish season. So it's nice to be close to the boats, to be able to see the lineups and help people find where they need to go, to have the fillet station out there. I think it's working well, yeah.
And the public is able to find you where you
They
are?
figure it out.
They're a
We have
little
really good
wandering around.
signage. Thankfully,
Okay.
lots of people helping with signage. So the pavilion and Gate 5 are very close to each other. It was a little more confusing when we were at Gate 7, but they figure it out. Yeah.
And they're buying right off the boats as well?
Yeah. Yep. Under tents and off the boats. People love that experience. They love meeting fishermen. They love feeling like they have that connection to their food. Yeah. Anything
Did you
else?
see that guy that caught our fish when we caught it? No, it's, as a fisherman, for me, it's great to see this. You know, back 40 years ago, maybe 45 years ago, we tried this here.
Yeah.
And the port wasn't very supportive then, and it really didn't go over very well. But now and then, I mean, I'm trying to remember the year that the state actually they would issue a permit to the fishermen to sell off of the boat. That started through WDFW, but that was a long time ago too. This is great. I'm glad to see all the hard work that you're doing to make this happen. That's exciting, and thank you for that. Thank you and your team. And I think that this is only going to grow and get better for the people of Whatcom County.
I think so too.
And our visitors from the north and south.
Absolutely. Yes.
Not too many from the west, that was kind of wet.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we can do to help broadcast the message, make sure people know about this happening? Any other avenues that you're hoping or wishing to be able to access for more outreach?
Yeah, we have not, I would say, tried too hard in that department. I do Facebook ads, so it's just a small little budget, just throwing something out before markets, just saying this is what we're doing. But not everyone's on Facebook, and so it's been a lot of word of mouth. And again, you know, the media, when they put stuff out there, we always see a big surge after that when there's an article. But a lot of people show up and they're saying, this is the first time I've been here. Sometimes they're just walking by and they're like, I had no idea this was happening. So I think any and all channels that this can go out, yeah, I welcome that.
We get the airport director to get a plane up with a banner behind it.
Yeah, write it in the sky.
Aren't there some we could borrow?
Run, Sunil, run.
Okay.
Is congestion an issue when you have 1,200 people out there on a given day? You said the high could be, is traffic?
Traffic hasn't been too bad, except for when we had Budfest. But the parking situation so far has been okay, and people have told me this is so much easier than going to the Bellingham Farmers Market. Love the farmers market, but just parking wise, it is quite a bit more accessible. So I would say that when we have 1,200 people, they're not all there at once. It's spread over 4 hours, but I mean, you can see in this photo, like there's quite a lineup. And so sometimes people have to wait, and usually they do it with a smile on their face.
So that's part of the experience.
It's part of the experience. That's right.
Does Dockside Market and Sea Feast coincide? Are they?
This year, they're on
time, or are they
different
separate
days.
days?
Yeah, we've done it together the last 2 years. And this year, they're doing it on, I think, the second Saturday and Sunday of the month. So we're just letting Sea Feast do Sea Feast that weekend. And if our vendors want to apply, they'll just apply directly with Sea Feast and just have it be a Sea Feast vendor. Then we don't have to worry about, this is ours, this is theirs, and these are our customers, and it's probably just simpler that way, yeah. But we work very closely with Sea Feast.
Great. Okay, well, thanks so
Thank
much, Carrie.
you.
Appreciate you
Thanks
coming
for
in.
having me. I'll exit out of here.
All right, our next presentation is an update on our climate action strategy, and we have Adrian.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm going to be flipping around a little here, so hopefully this goes according to plan. Okay. Hi, Commissioners. My name is Adrian Douglas Scott. I have a presentation for you today. No action to be taken today, but we hope to be bringing this back to you for adoption later this summer. I want to acknowledge that this was definitely not a solo endeavor. This involved a lot of staff, and especially that of Kurt Baumgarten, who's sitting over there. So if you have questions for us throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask. The Port of Bellingham is one of just a handful of Washington ports that has a climate action strategy. We've been doing a lot of work, a lot of various projects, and this just helps to create a structure to sort of capture that work that's being done at the port and to prioritize future projects and programs to reduce our emissions, protect the public assets, and to future-proof the local economy. So the updated climate action strategy was provided to you last week. Today I'll just be talking a little bit about that. I'll be talking about the work leading up to that, other work that has been done more recently, the public input process, and then next steps. So the work to date, I have brought the roadmap to you a few times already in the past, especially the timeline on that. We've moved beyond that, thankfully. In 2020, we performed a greenhouse gas emission inventory from the 2019 calendar year. In 2020, we had an internal vision setting workshop, and I'll bring that vision up in a moment. In 2021, we reviewed our 2019 greenhouse gas emission inventory and just looked at ways to make it better for the next one. And then in 2022, we had a coastal vulnerability assessment performed that was port-wide, and that was provided to you in February of this year. So the climate action strategy itself, as I mentioned, it's been updated. It's not finalized at this point, so the one we provided to you will have some graphics and a little bit of formatting updated. But the content we're generally happy with as well. The climate action strategy itself is a standalone document that's really our North Star. That's North Star. And it has some associated and supporting documents to go with it as well. So the coastal vulnerability assessment has been updated as well, beyond what you saw last time. That's available on our website, as are the action lists, which contain quite a few potential actions that we could take to meet our goals for both greenhouse gas mitigation and for resiliency. We are also currently working on an inventory of our greenhouse gas emissions for the 2022 calendar year. So from there, we'll be able to measure our progress going forward from our 2019 baseline year. So our climate action strategy builds on the work done by the Whatcom County and the City of Bellingham plans. As we fit in their jurisdictions, our public outreach and input processes looked a little bit different. We don't have that, we're not in the position to implement regulations like they are. So we've really focused internally so far. So our emission inventory, for example, was really focused on port controlled emissions. We are looking at ways to support and encourage our Scope 3 emissions. reductions, I should say. So that's just sort of a little primer on that.
Adrian, how often do you expect to do those inventories? You did 2019, 2022, is that on?
They'll be annual going forward.
Annual
Yeah,
going forward.
and that actually links to one of our environmental certifications. Green Marine requires an annual one. Well, it doesn't require, but to meet that performance indicator, it means an annual one. So this is the vision that you've seen before, which is to be a regional leader in sustainable economic growth while achieving greenhouse gas emission reduction targets and operational resiliency. The climate action strategy itself contains 10 goals for emission reduction and resiliency. So it covers both, which is a little unusual. A lot of climate plans consider one or the other, but this one has both. It aims to support a local sustainable economy, to protect port infrastructure and public assets, as well as being a tool for prioritization and implementation. So we've had a lot of work go into this document and the associated documents, and now it is ready for public input. So I wanted to talk about that process a little bit. Process. This, I think, is a really good opportunity for us to ask our community if there's anything we've missed, any improvements we could be making to this. We know that Whatcom County and Bellingham, the citizens are generally really engaged with this topic, and so we're looking forward to hearing from the public on that. So to do that, we are using an online platform called Conveo. And I'll bring that up in a little bit. I can demonstrate that for you as well. We have some target audiences already identified, such as the Working Waterfront Coalition. I see a couple of you here today. Hello. And other climate change action groups around the county and Bellingham. We'll have it available to the general public as well through our website. It gives an opportunity for general comments as well as specific comments within the document, and I'll show you that. And it also contains opportunity for folks to review the related documents that I brought up. So now I'm going to switch over to Chrome, and hopefully this works on Zoom as well. Okay. All right, so this is what the Conveo platform looks like. You can log in, or you can look at it anonymously as well. So it has a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of instruction here, and then down below is an image of the cover page of the actual climate action strategy. So I'll click into that in a second, but I just wanted to show if folks want to leave just a general comment, there's opportunity to do that here. There's also an opportunity to download the entire strategy itself. And then when they're in the document, sorry, it's just loading here. Slowly. When they're in the document.
Well, it's doing that. When somebody leaves a comment, is it categorized somewhere and is it compiled somewhere, and how do we get the feedback from
Yeah, so that's the thing with Conveo. It allows for the comment to be linked to the exact spot in the document, which hopefully I can show you in a second. Maybe.
Does it use keywords?
No, it actually just links it directly in there. And so we'll get a summary of the comments as they are linked within that section of the document itself.
Like you highlight a passage and say, I want to make a comment about this passage, kind of?
Yep, exactly, which is very cool when it loads. Yeah, it hasn't given me that.
there it
Not
goes,
like
there it
last time.
goes.
Okay, so here, for example, if somebody is looking at this and they say, oh, I want to make a comment about this, this aspect of it, they can click right on it. They can provide their name and email if they would like a response back. They don't have to. They can add it anonymously, add their comment, and then close it. And then that saves it, and we get a summary of all of those together. So it's a pretty slick platform as far as that input goes. So we do plan to have this open for 2 weeks, at least to start with. If we need to extend it from there, we can. So that's what we're aiming for in order to meet that August presentation to you. But we can extend that if we need to. Any more questions on this? Oh, actually, I do want to show you one more thing. So if we scroll down, this is the main home page of it. And if you scroll down further, these are those additional documents, which are also linked on our website, and I'll put a link to Conveo on there as well. But if folks are interested in that updated vulnerability assessment, they can click on that, and that'll just open that up. This is not available for the specific comments like the climate action strategy is itself, but it allows people to access that really easily. This is our 2019 greenhouse gas inventory, as well as those big lists of potential climate actions. So lots to do there. Then they can click right into our website or email myself or Kurt. So that's what that Conveo platform looks like. Any questions on that before I go back to Zoom? No? Okay. Or to PowerPoint. Okay, so the next steps here, we will be responding to all of the comments and tracking the actions taken for those responses. Then we anticipate bringing a summary of the feedback that we receive, as well as any substantial changes that results from that feedback in the strategy itself to you for adoption in August. We will continue to implement the strategy. We have a lot of programs and projects happening right now. We have a pretty extensive building and infrastructure energy management program started. We have a lot of construction projects. We're installing a number of electric vehicle charging stations. We have solar feasibility studies underway, environmental certifications. We're looking at electrification. There's a lot going on right now. So we will continue to work on this as we are writing the formal strategy itself. We are planning for 2024, and to do that, we're looking at what we need to feed into the annual budget process. And then in 2024 as well, we're looking at rolling this into the comprehensive scheme of harbor improvements, so it will be formalized that way. So I look forward to your feedback on the climate action strategy, to the public input on the climate action strategy, and I'm here for any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Turn to open it for questions and comments. Commissioner
Very well
Briscoe?
put together. Thank you. Thank you. I think that this represents a lot of time and effort put into, and I really appreciate that you guys are making it easy for the public to give input, because that's really important. We've had some instances in the past when it wasn't so easy to give input, but this the technology you're using is very exciting, and I think it's going to help with the people understanding what we're doing, and their input will be given while we're doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, I have nothing. 68 pages is a lot to comment on, so I think it's,
Yeah, the vulnerability assessment is also quite long, just to warn you, but yeah.
yeah, so I will have more as I go through it. Admittedly, I have not gone through it the way I should have. But
Great.
So does our insurance cover speed reading classes?
Well,
it's not my ability to read, it's
That wasn't insane. I was talking about me.
focus, attention span, discipline, those kind of things that I'm struggling with.
I can definitely
it is
appreciate
dense. Well, I appreciate it. I see that there are several other teams who have helped put this together, some of the consultants we've worked with. I know it's been a team effort with some professionals. You guys are professionals, but we've also relied on some other folks in the industry who have done this before with other groups, and I appreciate all their work helping us get there. And I love that we're showing some statewide leadership for our other ports. You mentioned there are only a handful today, but that's certainly not going to be the case in 5 or 10 years. And those other ports are going to be probably pestering you with questions on how did you do this and how do we do this, and you guys are going to be very popular for some of these other ports. And that's great. It's great anytime we can set a high bar. Two questions. One, I haven't been able to review all the other climate action strategies from around the county. What are some major differences between what we've done and those? Are there any substantially different directions that we've taken that the other agencies have done differently that you could categorize?
I would say Kurt and I work fairly closely with staff from the county, from the city, and from the small cities, from WTA and from the Whatcom County Whatcom Council of Governments as well. So there's definitely a staff collaboration that happens so that we make sure we are all in alignment with our goals and targets. That's the main thing for us, with our policies and making sure that nobody's stepping on each other's toes, that nobody's reinventing the wheel. There's definitely efficiencies to working together on that. So we're making sure that that's not happening. Our targets are in line, if not maybe a little bit greater than what the cities and the counties are, and because we sit within them, like, it's really important that we meet their targets and assist them in meeting their targets as well, but that helps us meet ours too. So I would say the biggest difference is that ours is really internally focused. We don't have necessarily the community influence that they do, so that's the biggest difference for us. We can support our tenants with this work, and we have goals and strategies laid out in the climate action strategy that you'll see. But at this point, we aren't directing them to do any of this.
Yeah. So the city of Bellingham is encompassing greenhouse emissions for the entire population and trying to determine regulation to fit. We're really looking at our operations, and that is a considerable difference.
That's correct.
Tell me about the emissions tracking for our tenants. I see in the future steps that there's goals for encouraging our tenants, for helping them to understand pathways for reducing. How much work is it for us to quantify the tenant emissions like we've done with our own?
We have a lot of the data, especially for energy use. If we, it depends on how they are, enrolled with PSE and CNG, our utility providers. So if we get the bills, we can see that data. If we don't get the bills, then we have to ask them for consent to do that. So with our building energy management program now, we call it the BUMP, we are helping folks meet there's a couple of requirements now from the state on energy efficiency and reducing the energy use intensity per building. They've started with larger buildings, so our airport is one that we're looking at initially, but we do have some tenants in larger buildings as well. So we're helping them to look at what projects need to go onto the budgets in the next few years to meet those targets. Pardon me. So it will be a bit of a lift. It just sort of depends on, our direction from you folks on how we want to go about doing that. At this point, we are just looking at supporting them with meeting the requirements of both the state as well as the targets of the county and the city.
I would just add that we lack the enforcement mechanism to force them to do a lot of this, so it would be voluntary because we don't have lease language that would require this. I think if we ever came to you with a tenant that we thought would need that, we would put that kind of language in their lease, but we haven't done that to date.
Yeah.
The good thing right now is there's quite a lot of incentives from the utilities for reducing energy and increasing renewable production, and so we can help sort of identify those incentives for our tenants. So that's one way we can support them in that, and we are doing that.
Do you think we should be, many of these tenants may not be able to identify and track what their emissions are. Mm-hmm. Does that provide a role for us? And at least, I know we don't want to get into an enforcement realm here. That's not our role. but to help them to at least be able to quantify so they're able to understand it. I feel like that would be one of those useful future goals. You know, we don't want you guys to get bored, right? So make sure there's some of these future tasks that we can think about expanding the portfolio here of the services we're provided, because if our tenants can identify, well, this is where we're at, this is where we can get with this X incentive, it could help them to work with us to make some of those capital improvements, or to be able to be as successful in some of the grant applications as possible.
Yeah, great idea.
I didn't see anything in here related to cost. Is there are you gonna be putting a section into the plan that talks about the cost of each of these elements? And there's a lot of talk in there about how to raise money and where we're gonna get money from, but nothing about what it actually costs.
That is really, there's a lot of the staff time, of course. Commissioner Shepherd mentioned the team that we have of consultants on that, so there is consultant cost for this. But a lot of the projects specifically, you'll see like any other capital improvement project will come into the budget and will be considered just like any other project. Excuse me. A lot of it is covered by some of those incentives I mentioned from the utilities. So yeah, it's definitely going to be transparent as we plan for future years.
Can we put it in the document somewhere, the cost of this, because it's its own plan?
Yeah, but each project's going to be a little different. So I think the idea of this is it makes recommendations to you on things we could do in the future. And then in the budget, we say, okay, here are the things we're going to do that we recommended we do, and here's the cost associated with those.
You can't put that in here where you can say this strategy is going to cost this.
I think in some cases you could, in other cases you couldn't, because it's a multi-year, it's not a one-year plan, so you don't, right? So we'll know the cost of something we're thinking of doing in 2024, but we may not know the cost of what we're going to do in 2028. Or they'll be greatly different by then. So it'd be...
Not necessarily gonna say, this is X cost to get to 100%.
That would be impossible, I think. At this point,
I
that
mean,
would be...
that seems like it's a number of years, and there's a lot of uncertainties on how to get there. You're looking at bringing to us investments on a budget by budget basis, instead of trying to factor one big number that probably won't be very accurate.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we're charting out 15 years in the future with a whole range of unknowns.
If not longer, right? I mean, if not longer.
And we do, within the document and within the tables, the associated documents of the tables, that includes relative cost. So I see your frustration on that. It would be nice to have a little more data and hard numbers on it.
The places where we can, I think we should. I think we've got an
Okay.
obligation to do that where we can. And we know what some of the infrastructure replacements and repairs, you know what it's going to take to build up. So what are those estimated costs? And they should be in the document at some point so that we know what we're looking at long-term. Because if we're going to sign off on this, then we damn well better be able to perform, is my take.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can figure something out here that'll satisfy the commissioner's request, because I get what you're asking for. But I also want to caution everyone that just because it's recommended in here doesn't mean we're going to do it, right?
Agreed.
So when I guess I don't want people coming back saying, well, look, the document says this, but we turn out it costs $100 million and we don't have $100 million, we're not doing it. So that's where we take the approach to budgeting that we do, that everything goes into that budget for a 5-year period, and we say, okay, we do have the cash flow to support all these activities, and we can highlight which one of those come from the climate action strategy. But I think what you're suggesting for the near-term stuff is something we can probably figure out and take a shot at.
And do you think that inclusion in the budgeting process is enough? Because we have this strategy and we have a goal, is that enough to force the budgeting process to respond? You know, are we going to see projects prioritized through the budgeting and having this plan adopted? Or is it something that we need additional ongoing kind of advocacy for as well?
Well, I think the plan will inform the budget. This plan will inform the budget. I would always want you to prioritize within the budget itself, because this will compete with other projects for dollars. We have an infinite amount of, not an infinite amount of, we don't have an infinite.
Fun year.
Tamara's just, I felt Tamara breathing down my neck.
Really excited about this.
Do you have a printing press somewhere that we?
So we don't have an infinite. So it will compete. The bottom line, it will compete with other projects, and we're going to have to make those decisions as we go along. And some things are going to be more important, especially when you get to fire life safety or the end of the life of an asset that produces a good amount of revenue. Will take priority over some of this stuff. But I'm pretty comfortable in our process and our decision making every year we go through this that we'll get it right.
Yeah, and I think you know better than most the way I think. I really want to know where the cost benefit is, right? And if we're going to prioritize one thing, what's the impact going to be? So if we've got a $100 million project long term, is that going to have the same impact as maybe a $30 million project somewhere else, using big round numbers? But we want the best bang for our buck as we go through this. There are things that we can bite off as we go, right? We want to know what those are, so we can do those on an ongoing basis. But then there's also the big range plan where we can't put a number on it. And we want to make sure that we're making the most impact with the money we put down. That's,
That's part of the budget. Every department comes.
Mike?
That's part of the budget process we're gonna be going into here shortly, that all that stuff is brought before us and questions are asked and we check and we think. And so I think that kind of covers what you're asking for, because we're right at the budget process now when this is coming into play, so.
the plan just isn't complete until it's got some,
I don't think this plan is ever gonna be complete. I would agree with
That it's always going to be a working document. Yeah.
It's a moving target, and so is the numbers we're gonna have.
clearly, I think, different than you
budget.
guys. But I do think we need some concrete numbers around some of this.
I think there's short-term phases of this and there's long-term phases, and you can put the numbers to the short-term, but it's going to be really hard to on the long-term stuff.
Which makes me nervous.
For
too.
the other plans, do they have more numbers, costs associated, or are we kind of in line with?
I would say we're in line with them, just because nobody really has that crystal ball, unfortunately. We're not alone in that. I will say a lot of what you'll see we've listed the potential actions and actions for, we've listed them according to timeline, so initial like 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, and beyond that as well, so you'll be able to see that. And a lot of the 1 and 5 year are really information gathering, so we're doing a number of sort of inventories right now of our equipment, and then we'll have a better idea of which ones are, like which HVAC equipment might be prioritized based on their efficiencies to be replaced, maybe a little bit sooner than what we have planned. So there is definitely a lot of wiggle room in this.
Well, all along it's kind of been my hope that this will provide another matrix for understanding and prioritizing upcoming projects. And so we can Rob has, I remember Rob's chart with the 4 boxes where he kind of prioritizes projects, and I think this is part of that prioritization lens that we get to think through of how we are spending money to get to another strategic goal. And so I like it being part of the budget process, because that's where it should be, I think, and that's how we make big decisions.
Yeah, and along with budget timelines, if we're making long-term projections, so there are some places in here where you're talking about projections that go out to 2050. There ought to be a mechanism for saying, what's the progress in that? I mean, are we actually seeing those changes through that 2050 period, so that we have some measurement to say we're either accomplishing our goal, we're not meeting our goal? 2050 is a long ways away. I won't be here. Well,
The annual greenhouse
Bobby
gas.
is still going to be here. He's still going to be running. But I clearly won't be here by 2050. And yeah, so just making sure that we've got some of those benchmarks and we know what those are, and we're.
I thought you meant over.
It's going to be Weekend at Bernie's for you. They're going to be some guy holding you up.
But we will get annual updates on this as part of how we're understanding our progress, right?
Definitely.
And unless I'm mistaken, we got some time yet before this is ever finalized to put into action, and we vote on it.
Did you say
correct? We
August?
have the public hearing, so it's not gonna happen probably till September or so?
We have it on our calendar. My goal is to bring it to you for the August 8th meeting. But that really depends on the next little while and what kind of feedback we're getting and questions from you, for example. So that's the goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes our regular business. I'm going to make another call for public comment. Anyone in the room or on Zoom wish to provide comment? Make yourself known. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move into other business. Commissioner Briscoe, or sorry, I was looking at Commissioner Bell and I said Commissioner Briscoe. That was a real curveball.
Okay, I'll go for it. I got
I'll
plenty.
still have Commissioner Briscoe go because that's what I said. Yeah.
I've done that. Don't worry, I've done that. I think I
Okay.
did it to you.
Yeah.
I got several things here. I think the first thing I'd like to start out with, and Rob could probably help me on this one, is our director at our airport is gonna be moving on, and he's gonna be sorely missed, and,
What?
I'm
We didn't
one
let him
who's,
do that.
I'm happy for you, Sunil, but I'm not happy for us.
We
You've
didn't vote on
done a
that.
great job here, and Whatcom County appreciates what you've done. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Okay, the next thing here is, my term is up on the 31st of this year, and I'm running for office again. And now I'm gonna be running unopposed, thankfully. And I wanna thank the port staff, our executive director, and my fellow commissioners for that. Because running unopposed is something that's kind of unusual, and it reflects the job that's been done by the port, not by me. It's all of you that have done this. We sit up here and we take a lot of credit for what you folks do, and we need to pass that credit back, so thank you very much.
Congratulations on another 4 years.
We had a blessing in the fleet in Blaine earlier on this month, and that went well, and I'd like to thank port staff for helping with that event. And frog in the throat. And Gary Dunster that puts it on almost every year. And we had a good turnout. It was a nice day, and it's good for the people to come and remember. I'd also like to thank the port staff for the blessing of the fleet, but for helping with the blessing of the fleet in Bellingham. It was a big event. In fact, it was huge. There was more people. I think this is the biggest year I think I've seen. And it takes a lot of effort. All the volunteers, the fishermen, the people that donate the food, the processors, everybody. It takes all those people behind the scenes to make that happen. And it was a great event. We just had the Drayton Harbor Oyster Fest, and that was also very well attended. It was huge. And I'd like to thank the Working Waterfront Coalition for all the volunteer work they did. They were there, and I would imagine, Steve, and you could attest that you were probably there almost all day and in the way into the evening. So I left early on, but it was a great event, and thank you for helping with that. It takes the volunteer help to make those things happen. Okay. Oh, I see the terminal noise results. We got those, and I read through them. And they look very encouraging. I do have one question. So when Sarah Bell was here, I spent a lot of time with her afterwards and spoke with her, and I was surprised that she said the ship noise wasn't the problem to them. It was the weekly dumping on the ground. And my question is, can we evaluate that noise level through a 1 week period or something at some point here, so we have both evaluations for the noise on hand to see if it's quite a bit different or.
Yep, we'll order up some noise readings for when the ship is not here, because they're pretty much working down there every day. So, and we've had some other ideas kicking around on that to make the work being done in the log pond area a little quieter.
So I think that would help greatly. So with the working waterfront, working on apprenticeship type deals with, and trying to get young people interested in working on the boats down here, crewing on them and learning how to repair them and so on and so forth. I was wondering if the port, we shouldn't have a spot on our website for people to go to and list their name if they want a job on one of our commercial vessels in the harbor, as well as our tenants in the harbor being able to put their name on that website spot as well at the port to put people together. I see some eyes lighting up over here. Maybe you could speak to that? Yeah.
Well,
That's good.
At the last MAC meeting, or two MAC meetings ago, Jim Kyle was there, and another MAC member, Faith Worthley, and she brought that forward, looking to be able to connect. She's a liveaboard, and she's down on the docks, and being able to connect. And she mentioned that the Working Waterfront, and Jim mentioned that the Working Waterfront Coalition was working on something like that, and so that it has been in discussion, so we can make contact with Dan. And
Yeah, it'd be nice if
Yeah.
we could be simultaneous with those guys and have it on our website. Okay, I have one other thing, but I'd like to wait till you gentlemen are done with your other business.
Okay. Commissioner Bell?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about the sound. Thank you for bringing that up, and also congratulations on a well-earned non-compete, I guess. We had our WPPA annual meeting in Spokane last week, and just to emphasize your point, Port of Bellingham is known for being ahead of the curve. We have people copying our container village. They're certainly going to be copying your climate action plan. It's a wonder we're not the Port of the Year every year, because we really are leading when it comes to broadband. It's Gina. When it comes to environmental, it's Brian and your group, Kurt. When it comes to innovation on the waterfront, it's us. The common theme is that people come to us to ask us what we're doing because we're seen as the innovators and being ahead of the curve. So again, congratulations to staff for leading the market in what we do. And it is not lost on a statewide basis. That was really the overwhelming theme that I took away from this. Also wanted to put a healthy endorsement for what CSD, our attorneys, bring to the table. Tim was great. He's not only great for us, but he sits there and he is a great salesman for the Port of Bellingham when he's there too. So thank you to your firm for what they bring to the table. It gives us some clout as well. I was really proud to be there this time, just from all standpoints. So staff, thank you for that. Sunil, we're going to miss you. Thanks for a job well done. Thank you. And I did fly Southwest to Colorado, just so you know, in your honor. Enjoyed every second of it. That's all.
All right, well, I've just got a couple. One, for my round of thanks, certainly for Sunil, and, I was mentioning to Sunil when I got here that we'll certainly be looking for a replacement, but it's going to be pretty challenging to find someone with his knowledge of the industry and the nation as a whole. That's a unique skill set, just that amount of institutional knowledge of the industry from coast to coast is quite unique and something we've really relied on. And somebody who has an answer to all of our crazy questions because he does his homework constantly. And so we will certainly miss that. I wanted to give a thank you to the Lummi Nation. They did an excellent job at hosting us at the first salmon ceremony. It was really nice to be back having that event. It's a lovely event, and my only complaint is I had to leave and go teach as they were bringing out course after course of ridiculously delicious looking food, and I had to race off and go teach my class. I really should have just canceled my class because it looked fantastic.
Actually, Brian could speak to you as well.
I hope so. I hope so. Let's see. I've heard very good things about the circus so far. I've run into a number of people, friends and other families who have been down there, and I've seen lines out the tent. So it's been nice. I think it's been nice to have that kind of buzz down there, and just the more we can do to make that place active and used by the community, we see they continue to respond well. So thank you to everyone who's helped get the circus there and make a big tent happen. I'm sure that took a lot.
First weekend they sold out.
Oh, really?
Tickets. Yep.
Oh, how cool.
There's only a few left for
good.
for the last show. So
Well, I'm glad it's been successful for them as well, because I've heard lots of good things from folks who have attended. Speaking of containers, I was down there speaking with folks who are in the container that does the arts, the rotating one. They were very appreciative of being down there. They did ask if there's any way to put a sign or have some mounting hooks so they can put their signs on the south side of the container so that people know that they're open. Because, when people walk in, they obviously see the doors open, but the filling station has openings on both sides to see through, and you can tell they're open, but they were asking if there was any way to increase the visibility.
So at this point, we provide them with 2 sandwich boards, and when I check them in, I encourage them to put one on the sidewalk so they're getting walker buyers. I encourage them to play music. I encourage them to be outside of their unit and not inside their unit. They literally just requested to put signage on the outside, QR codes, and Suzanne from Dish jumped on that today as well, and she asked if she could do it, and I encouraged her to use sandwich boards, which she hasn't been doing, and she said she would try that first to see if it worked. I'd leave it up to Rob and the commissioners, but I personally can envision them, Dish's QR code is a piece of printed out paper with duct tape on the back, and it's gonna take away from that beautiful artwork that we have there. So I just encouraged them to use the sandwich boards and see how it goes, and then let's get creative and do something different. So I've been thinking today about doing something different. I personally don't like the idea of putting magnets and tape QR codes all over the entrance, but I'll leave it up to all you guys. See what you guys think.
Yeah, I guess if there's anything, I know right now during midweek, not all the other businesses are open, so I think sometimes people drive up and they're unsure if things open or not, and once you come around, you clearly see that, but if you're just driving up from Laurel, you don't always notice.
Yeah, so this first month is pretty much just Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Yeah.
And in a week from now, it's gonna be busy because Caution is gonna be there, which is the driver. But I met with the events team today, and we formulated a plan that we're gonna put into action next year, which will help the food trucks and help the rotating containers all around, just lessen the frustration of that. But right now, it's slow. It's slow for everybody until Friday, Saturday, or Sunday because Caution is the driver, so.
Okay.
We could put big neon letters on the bullets that say open and closed, and light it up. You shake your head yes, but I'm.
Yeah.
I like neon.
I like that idea. If we can get it on a timer, you know.
But I think the point is we need to show we need better exposure to drive traffic there during these slow times when Colshan isn't driving it, and we'll have to get creative ways to do that. So we'll thank you for that. We'll think of some
I
stuff.
think this is probably the hardest month.
It is.
You know,
It is.
And so, you know, over the weekend it was windy and it was a little bit dusty down there, but people were still coming out, and I think we know it's going to increase, but the month of May is challenging for those ones who pop up early.
When I drove by on Saturday, there was lines at both Colshan containers, and Rain or Shine had a line as well. And one of those lines was like 25 people long. It was packed. So yeah, it's doing well on the weekends. It's just we got to figure out that Monday through Thursday thing.
Well, one of the hard parts is this time of year, the weather is so unpredictable that it would be better if those vendors had a policy where they were open on nice days and closed
Agreed.
on rainy days, so that
We have a
it
plan.
would drive
And
traffic.
are we going to bring the bathroom trailer down there? Oh, they are down there. Okay, great.
Since April 1st.
Okay. My last question is maybe for Gina. I know we recently applied for some broadband grants from the state. We did not get them, even though we had a great application. It's just very competitive to get these funds. Part of applying for these funds, we worked with our partners at the county to have some matching funds, and these are federal ARPA dollars, if I'm correct. And I wanted to see what our ability to use those ARPA dollars, because I think some of them have a timeline on a ticking clock when they must be used by. If there's anything we can do with them while not having received this initial state grant, I would be certainly open to hearing.
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Shepard. So Gina Stark, Economic Development Broadband Manager. So yes, still a little wounded about not getting the grant, but you know, there were, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a scale, there were 52 applications, 14 funded. They had 125 million and nearly 400 million in ask. So we were very competitive and very close. But yeah, we did receive on a contingency basis 400 million from the county for broadband purposes. And even when we were having the conversation with the county, they had asked us, what if you don't get the grant? And I said, you know, that is a possibility, but the need is not going to go away. The ARPA funds needed to be allocated by 2024 and have to be spent by 2026. It's really not that far away. We still have several hundred homes that are unserved and underserved. So I've already engaged in conversation with the county staff, and I've put into motion to go before the county and ask if we can still spend the dollars. Because they said, well, what about using them matching for the BEAD money? That's the federal money that's coming down. We're not going to see that money until even close to 2025 at best, probably 2026, because the state still needs to implement their digital equity plan, their infrastructure plan, and then it still has to get approved by the federal government. That's a lot of processes. They still have to come up with their grant processes, their challenge processes. I think you can see where I'm going with this. And so the need is today. Why not build it today? We've already identified with our grant application where that need is. We're already beginning to build North Linden, North Ferndale. We can spend those monies now and just keep on going. So, like I said, the county has been a great partner, and so already engaged with them, and so hopefully they will allow us to keep those dollars and spend those dollars now and keep serving our community.
Okay, well, thank you for being on top of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't want to lose the money, and we
No.
want to put it to work. That's what it was intended as part of ARPA, and so keep pressuring them to keep that in the broadband expenditure. And if you need any help advocating, please let us know.
Yes, thank you. And, if you happen to see one of our county council members, and you want to have a conversation about broadband, please feel free. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Briscoe, you had another item?
Yeah, and it's not a normal item, so I'm gonna try and go through it. We have a surplus piece of property that I'm interested in, and it says, Emma gave me this, it says that in no case shall surplus personal property be sold to any port or official employee or members of their families without the specific approval of the commission. It's a vessel, and we held a public auction, and I had talked to Tamara about whether I could bid or not, and it wasn't surplus property at that time, but then it became surplus property because nobody came to the bid. There was no one at the bid on anything. So at that point, the vessel reverted to the port. Rob has declared the vessel to be surplus to the port needs, and we're looking for a buyer, and I would be asking my fellow commissioners to decide whether they would allow me to buy that vessel or not. And I would recuse myself from any vote on this. I think, did I word that properly?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so it's up to a discussion.
Holly, is this a standard practice that happens, or?
It's not something that I've seen before. I haven't taken a look at this. So if it's something that you wanted me to take a look at and come back to you, it sounds like it's surplus. You don't have any other buyers who are interested in it at this point, so there isn't a rush, but I can take a look at that if you'd like and can report back to the commissioners if you'd prefer that approach.
I think because of the sensitive nature of it, it'd be good to have it appear on agenda. So rather than acting tonight, you put it on the next agenda, Holly gives you her legal opinion, and then you get to vote on it in an open public meeting. I do think in this case, we're gonna scrap it. So if someone can get some use out of it, then it was at an auction, the public had a chance to buy it, nobody bid on it. Commissioner Briscoe wasn't allowed to bid on it, otherwise he would have. Whether he was allowed to or not, we could debate, but anyway, that's where we're at, so.
Caution here.
I don't have any heartburn at all, given the process we've already been through. I don't see a reason to deny that request at all.
I do think
another meeting to get it done,
Yeah.
fine.
I just think that's in the spirit of transparencies where hey, everyone's got proper notice that this is what we're doing. They can object if they want to. We've got a proper legal opinion. I just think that's probably the best process.
Is it about, do we get to go on rides?
You want, you can go use it.
So now you've crossed the line. Now
Now you have to recuse yourself as
now
well.
myself too. Now I have a problem with it.
That's
Okay.
all I had, thank
Great.
you.
Well, Holly, please get back to us on that. Okay. Rob?
Yes, so we had Governor Inslee here this morning. He's out here for a visit with the Lummi Nation and their fentanyl summit, and he wanted to tour the waterfront. So Gina was very good at setting that up and shepherding everyone through. And can you imagine, first of all, we had a lot of governor staff there. We had the State Patrol there. We had Mercy Housing there. We had Corex there. A couple others, and port staff there. So it was quite the entourage that Gina kept through the whole site. We did a tour. We started at Mercy Housing. We went in the board mill building. Oh, the board mill group was there. Brian did a talk about the waterfront the whole time. I think Brian and I, between the two of us, mentioned the words Matka at least 100 times. He got tired of hearing about Matka, but it's a great example of what Matka money does, and we wanted him to see that firsthand. So I think he was pleased. He ate lunch at Rain or Shine. Him and his wife, Trudy, ate at Rain or Shine, and they had the beach bowl. So yeah, they were very happy, and they thought it was kind of cool seeing all the governor's staff kind of surround him in Rain or Shine. They're just very casually having lunch.
Thanks for showing off our fun projects well. Appreciate it.
The fentanyl summit? It's this afternoon. I think it's going on right now. Oh, was it? I didn't know that. Okay. He was speaking this afternoon.
2 days. All right. Any other items? No. All right. We're done.